Another day, another dollar. Today we're installing the BCDC charger and like hooking up the battery and all that crap. So spin this around here a little bit. Okay, so we're going with the REDARC Alpha 50. I got the wiring kit for that. I had to get a fuse tap, so there's that, and then this is 25 feet of, I don't know, is it like 3/4 inch? Probably. It's a good guess. I got it's a 5,000 watt inverter, which is obviously overkill. I got that for free, so I'm just gonna send it. I think I'm gonna mount it to the underside of that shelf, kind of like a little bit of an angle. So that is that. I guess let's get cooking. So I'm gonna run the cable back to the BCDC charger from here. I'm just gonna go onto this stud, or maybe this one. I don't know. We'll figure that out later. There's a fuse box right here, but none of these do. They don't have the ignition, or at least none that I could find. So the blue wire is eventually gonna go to this. I don't even know if you can see that. This one over here, the top 10. So that's what that fuse tap was for, the add fuse, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's kind of a quick little rundown. I'm going to sleeve all the wire in that conduit and kind of just run it up under the truck. I'm going to throw it. The factory wire harness in this one is on the driver's side, and so it's kind of on top of the frame rail. So I'm just going to zip tie it to the existing one, so it's all out of the way. And I guess there's a plug in the bed. You probably won't even be able to see it. So this is obviously cab bed. There's a spot in there, and I'm going to try to pop out the like little grommet deal. And then I might be drilling a little hole to come up and come into the battery box. So here's a little unboxing of the REDARC stuff. You get your little card. This is a one-handed wonder. You get the Alpha 50, and I'm sure this is just hardware for all of these terminals. And then in here, a little bit of conduit. That's how I sized it up. And then just wires or whatever. So yeah, let's get to this. So to figure out if it's like an ignition source of power, you just take your little test light, stick it on the, gosh dang, the top of the fuse right there. Okay, obviously it's not lit up. Stick the old key in, and then wow, it lights up crazy. So that's how I figured that out. Okay, so we can test this real quick. Obviously, so the added fuse is in here. We're just gonna stick the test light in the hole and turn the key on. There you go, power. So that's that. So eventually the blue wire is gonna plug in to there. So I got the power cable and the blue ignition wire in the same conduit, and the reason for that is they're kind of going in the same spot. So I'm going to go on the top of the frame rail. It's going to come up kind of under this wheel well, and it's going to sort of follow these wires, which is this is for the air compressor for my bags. And obviously, so the fuse holder is going to go on this inside the fender somewhere, and then go to here. And then the blue wire is going to go through this hole right here where this black wire is going, and that'll take it into the firewall. It'll come up here, and then there's a hole right here, which this is the controller for my Switch Pros, but it'll just, it'll be right here for the add circuit deal. Okay, we're trying the mic on the hat for the first time ever. Right here, I'm about, I don't know, right in the middle of the cab, basically. You can see the existing wire harness, and I'm just gonna zip tie this like on top of it. I got it in here. Now I just have to kind of push it back just a little bit and route it a little more to the right, but that wasn't too bad. So the blue wire goes into this, which is a little fuse holder, and their red and blue wire is not very long. So I ended up just extending it a little bit using the solder seals, which if you've never seen them before, they're right here. You just hit them with the heat gun and you get solder. Okay, so we got this wire down through the firewall down there. I'm gonna, I don't know, zip tie this out of the way or mount it or something just so it doesn't get in the way of the spring for the hood. So that'll be difficult to see, but the wire's going into the bed right there through a grommet that was already there. So that worked out really good, and it's under the shelf. So now I'm just gonna punch a little hole in the shelf, and so I can feed the wire through it and get it on top. Okay, so I drilled 2 holes. One's right here, kind of closer to the middle of the truck, and the other one's right here. And I think what I'm actually going to do is mount the BCDC charger on the edge of this, or on the side of the battery box. So I'll kind of get going to that in a minute. So this is where obviously the wire comes into the bed. I do want a little swagger, so I'm just going to zip tie it to that little ring right there, and just is what it is. I think it'd be good to have just a little slack just in case, because we got it pretty much to length right here. Okay, so I just got the inverter installed on the bottom here. Yeah, I just kind of held it up there, marked it, drilled it from the bottom, and then bolted it down. And then I did screws on the top so nothing gets snagged ever. So I mounted the base for the battery box. The 2 screws on the left were pretty close to hitting it, and these ones, I knew the inverter was right under it, so I cut them short. So this is what I'm doing for the Alpha 50. I just mounted it to this battery box, and then the screws in here are basically flush with this piece that comes in, so that worked out really good. And the battery fits in there like loosely anyways, and I'll be able to put a little foam around pretty much the whole perimeter of it. So that's kind of the plan with that. And then obviously this will sit on its little bracket deal down there, and then once you put the battery in there, you'll be able to tie it up with the lid, and that's all going to be great. These are going to loop around and screw into those terminals, and that's yeah, kind of a nice little all-in-one deal. I just finished up taping up this chassis ground. So it's going to go from the auxiliary battery to obviously the chassis. I wrapped it in a little bit smaller conduit, wrapped the whole thing in harness tape, and it's going to go out the same hole that the power coming in is going out of. And I'm going to grind off a little spot on the chassis, send a bolt through it, and that'll be that. I did 2 gauge on this. It's good for 100 whatever amps at 12 volts, and the max discharge on that battery is 100 amps, so that's should be good for that. It should never be anywhere close to that, but hey, overkill is good, especially with electricity and all that crap. So yeah, I'm gonna fish this down the holes and get it mounted down below and get this on the battery, and then we'll get ready to throw the battery in the box and start finishing up there. Okay, so on the auxiliary battery, there's going to be 3 things on the ground. There is a ground going to the chassis. This is the temperature sensor, and this is coming from the BCDC charger, so it'll loop, you know, something around like that. So this is going to be hard to see. I tied a smaller piece of wire onto the big one to be able to kind of fish it straight down, and there's a bolt right here that goes into the bed, and I'm going to bolt it to that, and there's our chassis ground. So the chassis ground is done, which is this guy right here. We need to ground the battery to the REDARC. We need to do our temperature sensor. We need to get the positive from the battery all set up. There's a fuse. We're gonna do this red wire to a fuse and then bounce that over to here and hook all this stuff up, throw our fuses in, then we'll be done for the day. I'm not hooking the inverter up yet. I'm not hooking up any other 12 volt like plugs or anything. I just am too busy today, so that's where we're gonna leave this episode. I'm just gonna get all the wires set up on this, and then I'll just be able to throw it on the battery. So if you've never done a MIDI fuse before, you throw the fuse in first, and then your wire going each way, which this one goes this way, and then you have your 2 little lock washers and your 2 nuts, and that is it. We'll tighten them down with the socket, and that will be that. Well, this is about as clean as I can get it. I still have to open it up a little bit. I gotta hook up the inverter and do the 12 volt accessories at a later date, but this is what we're leaving with for now. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments below. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, and if you want to stick around, hit subscribe. But as always, I hope you have the day you deserve.